Welcome back to Cortoberfest. John here, and today I am really blessed to have my friend, really good actor and exceptional human being, Michael Vitovich here, to talk about one of Spielberg's, I would say, lesser known films. People don't talk about this one as much. 1941. Now, to start off, we're on, I think, opposite ends of this. So sort of what I think led to this. You like this movie.
I do. This is one of those movies that I'm very affectionate of. And that's why I was trying to get to the bottom of what really makes it. Is it a difference of age that I like it more than you do? Or
yeah, that's... So I saw this, I want to say in high school. At some point, yeah, it's just like, again, I'm not a fan. It's, I think, my least favorite Spielberg movie. But I saw it in sometime in high school. It was one of the early DVD, right around when DVD first came out. And it was right around the time I really got into the Blues Brothers. Just on the Belushi front, Blues Brothers is one of my all-time favorite movies. But yeah, this one didn't hit for me, but it did hit for you. So what works about the film for you?
I know that we talked about this a little bit before we even got started off camera, but I think that there's a number of different things. This is, for me, after rewatching it too, it's a little bit of a playground for Spielberg and Zemeckis.
Yeah.
Without something like this, it's going to be tougher to really nail that Marty McFly character.
Yeah.
Or it's going to be really tougher to have like the kind of the action sequences that they had in Indiana Jones.
Yeah.
Because they were really perfected in a movie like this.
And that, I mean, I
keep that in your mind.
And to riff on that,
sure.
The practical effects in it, because there are, with more adult eyes, I mean, accomplishing a lot of what they do is really wild. They blow
pretty intense, yeah.
They blow up a lot of stuff.
Yes.
There is insane amount of stunts, and at the end of the film, it looks like it's a full-size house that goes over that cliff.
It is.
It is actually a full-size
house,
which is absolutely wild.
Yeah.
So you do have that, and on the Marty McFly front, the Wally character, definitely has some of that zany, and I would say that
you get that even in like in Back to the Future 3 and Back to the Future 2, any of the time that you get like on screen with George McFly, where he's kind of like that bumbling, stumbling around, or even that the violence is not really violence; it's more of choreographed interactions, and so like something like this. I was looking from an acting standpoint where like there's a lot of like there's a good one shot, and then there's the part where that guy is laying unconscious, and the whole you see everything that's about to happen, and that's kind of one of the, I guess, the anticipation is one of those things. It's not like it's there are certain moments that make you laugh in this, but then there's certain moments where you're like, oh shit, let's see how this goes.
I will say that the character, because I mean, part of the issue that I have with it, there's a ton of characters with all different stories going on, and for me, that they didn't necessarily intersect smoothly, but the character that I did connect with on a personal level was Wally, my goal is I want to do this jitterbug competition with this girl, and we really care about each other, and that really connected with me.
Yeah.
And those were the parts of it that I tended to lean towards in terms of enjoyment.
There's so many different interesting dynamics in this movie, and that's that's one of the things that I think that I like is there are those varying connections. You have Wally, where he's trying to get into that jitterbug competition because he feels like that is going to earn the respect of like his father and other stuff like that. When you see that he's trying in vain, but in the ultimate scheme of things, he doesn't really care about any of that. He cares more about her. And then you have like kind of like the male toxic character that he's just like, I want that girl. girl. I want that girl.
That's like one of those wild plot points that really I don't know that you could entirely get it. It's one of I was watching it this morning.
Yeah.
And there's portions of it. It's like, are we trying to laugh at?
Ish, because I think what it is it's making fun of stereotypes.
Yeah.
And that's, for me, comically, the absurdity is what I really love about this movie. Is there are moments so absurd where you're like, it's a show that you're just like, what is happening right now? And I think that's what makes it the most entertaining.
Yeah.
So it yes, they threw Belushi in because his character sucks, but it's meant to draw viewers.
Yeah.
It's meant to be interesting.
And I mean, you can see. I mean, even though because with Belushi, whenever he's on screen,
It's just his performance.
he was a comic genius, and his character, there's a lot of it that is sort of like, why are you here? But also he's so dynamic, and I don't know that we see a lot of. There's not a John Belushi right now, and so he is very dynamic. Even though, again, like I'm just like, why are you here? What are your motivations?
Yeah.
And I will say, I think the setup is really interesting in that you've got World War II. It's right after Pearl Harbor, and I do believe it's based on actual fears and.
There was an actual event where there was something that flew over the sky in Los Angeles, and I think that they may have fired a couple rounds, but nothing to this extent. So that's why it's like so over the top.
And it's sort of conceptually I like it, taking this sort of the real world fear and the history and making light of it is a good idea. I personally wish it was a little bit more focused.
Yeah. Well, but it's what to me. It's the same thing as that setup on the dance floor.
Yeah.
You're watching this how one domino kicks over another domino, how it kicks over another domino, how these random people all interact with each other in this space in this time. Unlikely. You know, it's a throwback towards like that Mad World, kind of like the Scramble where it has that ensemble cast.
Yeah.
Because there's really nobody has a lot of time on screen. Wally is one of those main people but he's the driving force to the story of why they're there.
Yeah.
You have like the characters of like Ned Beatty, Hollis Woods. You have like Toshima Mifune. There's so many amazing actors in this.
The cast is and again I was telling you earlier, I was like, I'm watching this and I'm pulling up my IMDb app, IMDb app, and looking at the cast, and it's like, good Lord, like there's talent in this. I mean, you had at the time young talent with Dan Aykroyd, John Belushi, John Candy, but also you got Christopher Lee in there, which, I mean, I was looking at the trivia, a legend that man was, and he's actually speaking the German himself, and the litany of languages he actually knows was crazy.
One of the things that I thought was really interesting about him is there's been some speculation that Christopher Lee is who they based James Bond off of.
Yeah. Oh, he's either there's
he really worked for the British Secret Service.
Yeah, and that's where like he. I'm sure you've heard this story on when they did Lord of the Rings, where he was like, that's not how people sound when they get stabbed, and it's like, because I actually was around somebody when they got stabbed, and it's like, oh my God, like the man led a fascinating life, but I get it confused. Because he's connected to both J.R.R. Tolkien and Ian Fleming, and he's related to one but knew the other. Yeah. Fleming the one
it's like his cousin or something.
Yeah, and it's like I would always get those flip flops, but it's like I got talk about a dude who had an interesting life. And just an amazingly just talented,
and he was a Bond villain too.
And he's one of the best. Man with the Golden Gun is underappreciated, and I love him in that film because he's sort of the sort of dark variation of Bond, and the thing I also love about Man with the Golden Gun is that it doesn't really end in world-breaking stakes. It's really like I need to know if I respect you as being this amazing shot with a gun, and we need to test each other. Us men need to test each other in the field of combat.
Absolutely.
And it's a great movie, and Roger Moore I actually think is a little underappreciated as James Bond. He gets a lot of crap for being sort of, but he spoke,
he was tongue in cheek.
Yeah, but he spoke to the 70s, and one of I'm sort of, this is a tangent a little bit, but my sort of James Bond is my favorite franchise, so I'll always end up down that path when it gets there. But I think each actor who's played James Bond has sort of been a little bit of an encapsulation of the time that they were making Bond in. Like Connery is the 60s Bond.
Yeah.
Roger Moore was the 70s.
Yeah.
You had the Reagan era 80s James Bond with Dalton, who Dalton is another one underappreciated.
Yeah.
License to Kill is, I think, in my top 5.
He went more towards the Sean Connery Bond.
Yeah.
Where it is like that, how it's written in the books, more like
I guess my understanding on is that when he tackled the character, he very specifically was like, I want to go to the character that's in these books and be that character. And in a lot of ways, he's almost sort of a proto Daniel Craig in how seriously he takes the part. And I don't think the public was ready for it yet. And then you had that sort of 6-year weird gap between him and Brosnan. And Brosnan was my childhood James Bond. So
GoldenEye was like amazing.
It's
breathed so much life into that character.
I think GoldenEye is the final classic Bond film.
I can agree with that.
And I enjoy all of Brosnan's films, and I like Daniel Craig's, but in terms of that old school James Bond, GoldenEye is I think the last true.
Well, walking into Casino Royale, and watching that, and you kind of saw that I was, at this point in his character, I was like, why are they going so far back? And then after watching how those few movies came out, I was like, they're bookending it. They're filling in the gaps of the beginning with the ending.
Yeah.
That leads into a great segue for something that I wanted to say.
Let's circling back.
Well, to go back with the idea of the ensemble cast, thinking and you do directing, and we both have been in this work for a bit, to see like a group of people all work together in the dance hall, in the street sequence, that is super, super difficult to do. You know that.
You just the logistics of getting this made.
Yeah.
I can't. And it's one of those I feel like very few directors can accomplish, and Spielberg being one of them, who has one thing is that you look at how he sort of frames the camera work. He does. Everything feels very thought out, and he's using it
because it's all driving the next scene.
And I think one of the things that doesn't hit for me is that I don't know that this brand of comedy is exactly in his ballpark. Like I think like sort of going back to Belushi. Blues Brothers is another one of my all-time favorite movies. I think John Landis really had a beat on that brand of comedy in a way that Spielberg didn't quite.
But you could see the influences of kind of where it overlines. And I think when Zemeckis wrote this, I think he wrote it as a dark comedy.
Yeah.
But then they were trying to stay away from it being like a political piece.
Yeah.
But like I can see some of the things. But for me personally, like I step back from all of that stuff where it shows how in the right moment people get scared, people get nervous, and then that's like where they're shooting out in the sky and they're like, "What are you shooting at?" And they're like, "I don't know, that other guy."
That is one of my favorite lines in the whole thing. It's like, I don't know, I'm shooting at what this guy is shooting.
Exactly.
Like, and it's that stuff. There are a lot of moments in there that work well. There's
And that's one of the things that I think that I'm very affectionate on this film is the absurdity of it.
Yeah.
You know, it is the absurdity of it. Well, like even for the like the Christopher Lee and Toshima Mifune, they're working together. It's basically like the Japanese Empire, the Japanese and the Germans are supposed to be working together to bring down anything in Los Angeles that they can kind of crush as a symbol of thing. And I was like, that's right on. I can see that.
And well, just I love it that by the end of the movie they take down a Ferris wheel, and it's like, oh, that's good. It's like we accomplished our goal was just like destroy large things,
store morality,
and it didn't even matter if it's a thing that it was a Ferris wheel and ultimately no one cared.
Exactly.
So, but it's. We have to. It doesn't matter what it is. Yeah. It can be totally irrelevant to what Americans care about. We're taking something down just to say that we did.
And that was like the thing that it showed the infighting with those two, and how things even changed towards the end of the film where they spoiler alert, they end up throwing Christopher Lee's character over the edge. You know.
And there's also that. What's interesting from a historical context is there is nothing in terms of like the Japanese and Nazis in Germany. There is nothing respectable about the Nazis. With the Japanese, there is this cultural,
of course,
honor element to their culture that is commendable, and that's sort of there is a difference between the two.
Yeah.
And also there's this element of back in film school, we watched some old World War II era Looney Tunes where they would sort of, the propaganda of, and you look at...
Which is great because you're leading me into one of my other points. Like this, so go ahead. Go for it.
But you looked at sort of like the Looney Tunes that were lambasting the Germans. It was very specific to...
Very propaganda.
But it's like with Germany, it was specific to Nazis.
Yeah.
With Japan, it's like oh my god, that is overtly racist.
Yeah. Exactly.
And it's just like one of those, and it's like I don't, and like you get that, like wouldn't happen today. But it's just it's sort of an interesting look into the sort of culture of the time and sort of how differently we look. When we look at what how we looked at those our two enemies back then versus now, and there's it's
rebranding.
Yeah, but I will say like Nazis will always be the perfect villains. With you look at Indiana Jones from
that's how I grew up.
From the original Indiana Jones, and then they did Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, and I understand. It's like, okay, Harrison Ford is however many years older now. Who is the enemies of America then? It's the Russians and the communist.
I hope the new one.
I want it to be good. I don't know that it will be, but my soul wants it to be good.
It's like something to make up after Crystal Skull.
It's just like With Stalin and the communists, they were evil dudes as well, but they just can't be branded as villains the same way that obviously, like if you need a default villain that everyone hates, you can't go wrong with making a Nazi your villain.
Of course.
Like the Rock. You remember the Rocketeer of course. Like, even the mob. That's one of the great things about the end of that movie. Even it's like I ain't working for no 2-bit Nazi. Like
exactly.
So, but I was leading into something.
Oh yeah. Well, and I wanted to make sure that and that was one thing I wanted to say again to bring it back around with Casino Royale. I'm not talking about the Daniel Craig Casino Royale, but I'm talking about the 1967 David Niven Casino Royale, which is more of a comedy.
Yeah, and I watched. I think about halfway through. I have it on DVD somewhere, and I have to finish it.
Yeah.
It's interesting. It's sort of like a proto Austin Powers.
It's perfect. It's perfect in that time frame because that's exactly. It was like what? Yeah, it was like 1960.
Yeah. It was 1969. It came out the same year as
was
on Her Majesty's Secret Service.
Yeah.
And apparently a lot of people thought they were going into a legit James Bond movie, not realizing that it was this isn't a real Bond movie.
Yeah.
We're making fun of it.
Yeah.
And they were sort of got there and they were real PO'd that they didn't get an actual Bond movie.
It was like Woody Allen's in it.
Yeah.
It was just like, but I haven't seen like an overall I guess a riot since something like that, similar to those kind of bits. Even in Blazing Saddles, where they kind of break the third wall at the end of it, where they have the whole backlot studio, something similar to that, because there's a lot of people in that one.
Yeah.
Now I'll piggyback on to what you were saying with the old Bugs Bunny cartoons and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the reasons why I personally connected with a lot of this, because I grew up with those Looney Tune, those Looney Tune or Merry Melodies, where it would have like kind of the stereotypical, and this is something that wouldn't even be touched today, where you have like that stereotypical good looking girl, but she's overweight, and she's more like going after a certain type of guy. And it's like the unga bunga, like knock the girl over the head, like I'm gonna take you away from this shit kind of thing.
Well, it's sort of this weird dynamic of you got this obviously again like with it's the guy from was he the one from West Wing? Because the young guy from West Wing is in it. Oh God, I'm blanking on his name.
Tim Matheson.
Yes.
Tim Matheson. He's the funny stereotypical guy where he's lying as much as he can to get this girl.
He's the one with the plane. He's trying to sleep with Nancy Allen on the plane, RoboCop.
And that was the she was so attractive.
Yeah,
she probably still is. It was one of those things where I always thought it was funny because he was saying anything he could just to get in bed with the girl, and then when he gets up in the air, she's all about him, and he's just like, I just want to fly this plane.
It's sort of like I've lied and lied and lied, and now he has to deal with the consequences of his lies. That like if I don't have to get, it's not going to work down there, because if it does, then I'm going to crash this plane.
The thing that made me laugh the hardest is she thought she was kind of like into this kink of being into the flight, and then realized that the only thing she wanted was a guy that was going to break any of the rules for her, because as soon as they're on the ground and he's just like, I'm so in trouble, she's just like, really fucking turn on. So she's like, and then it was like you couldn't get them apart for the rest of the movie, which was just. But it's so stupid and slapstick over the top, where like even in the one scene where he's trying to get her, he's trying to sleep with her while they're on the ground, and she's like moves the propeller and smashes this guy in the head. And he's like, Jesus, and all his paint goes flying. That's funny, and that's very that's to me that was very Indiana Jones-ish, and then. They're like, well, no bombs are going to be dropped here today, and then a bomb goes wrong by and blows up everything.
And apparently, and it was cut from this one. They did some sort of coat hanger, and this was I think the Hollis P. Wood portion. They did sort of a torture device. Turns out to be a coat hanger thing. And it got cut from this movie. And Spielberg he really liked the idea, and he wanted to do that, and it of course classically wound up. In Raiders, and it is so effectively done in Raiders, and partly just like what we know about Toad as a character, and just that performance of that creepy.
It was so perfect though, and I think I caught some of that because I was trying to do all of my due diligence. He was saying that he did that 10 times before it finally landed with audiences, and he was like, all right, good, I'll keep it.
Nice.
So awesome.
But I guess that was one so we were on
which is and you led into the Hollis Woods thing, and that I think that scene is one of my favorite scenes because it's so absurd. It's just over the top where they pull a guy off of they pull a guy out like he's just driving down the roads who just happens to be selling Christmas trees. His name is Hollis Woods, and then they kind of do that who's on first, who's on second kind of thing. And then he's like, oh, And then he goes into his classic character of Slim Pickens.
Yeah.
You know? And then it's like, I always laugh. I don't give a shit how many times I've seen this movie. But he's like, when he gets pissed off and he's just, I ain't telling you nothing. And then they're like, we got to think of ways to get this out of him. Yeah. He set down the knife and he goes, hey boy, watch that knife. That shit makes me laugh every time just because it's so funny.
What's sort of interesting is like, because they're disguised as Christmas trees and they're there and he shows up with the axe and it's just like, oh, like that would, like this could end up so badly it's such a clever,
play on it.
It's one of those things that I did really like about the film is that it's like, oh boy, we picked the wrong disguise, and just like, are they gonna get their legs hacked off because they're disguised as trees?
Yeah, that's what's so great about it is like how absurd and just like the worst timing of all of it. Yeah, you know, even down to the guys on the Ferris wheel. Yeah, you know where he's just like, he goes, they gave this guy a gun. And he has, he's a ventriloquist, and he was this famous, he's this comedian that used to do stuff back in LA back in the day. But he was just like this super weird, nerdy type guy, or the stereotypical nerdy guy, prior to Screech from Saved by the Bell, right? And they were even, and that was the same guy that was up in there was the mayor from Jaws. Yeah, which I didn't like, and I read the man. It was with Murray Hamilton. Yeah. I did not recognize him, and I don't know if it's partly the hat, but I mean it was, and it also was a very different part from what he plays in Jaws or in The Graduate, where it's like he's the authority figure. So he got to sort of do something a little different, which must have been nice. It was great though, and it was such an odd couple. Like if you could think of who are the worst people that you would want to be up in that, of course it would be this guy that brings his own mannequin, and his own dummy. Yeah. So I thought that was incredibly funny and ironic. Yeah. That's what I thought was interesting about 1941 as well. Yeah. I just like one of those I want to. It's just like I want to again I saw this pretty later. I even for movies I don't like, I try to find something because everyone sets out to make a good movie. They want to entertain people, so I try to look at things in terms of what. Like there's merit somewhere. Find the things that worked. Yeah. And there were things there, like going at it from I didn't like this. This is not a movie I loved. Let's find things that I like, and you can find them when you look. And you were bringing up the actress who's after it's this interesting because he obviously is like this sort of toxic man who won't but also she's no for no but also you've got this toxic man being followed by toxic girl, and it's sort of this oh my god, these two people who I can't stand deserve each other. But that's what's great about it. It's almost like there are these two relationship tropes. Yeah. And then the third one would even be Wally and his girlfriend. Yeah. Where it's they really are trying to make things work, and they really like each other, but obviously the father doesn't approve. Well, and also Wally does have the arc of. A lot of characters here, I think, don't have arcs, but at least he does, in that he's I'm not joining I'm not joining the military. He doesn't join the military, but by the end, he's essentially he's taking on some form of military responsibility there, which ultimately, The funny thing about that is I ended up learning this a little bit yesterday, just doing some deep diving, is that they originally they were going to end it where he, this sounds so stupid, but initially since Japan and all of that ruined his dance and all of that other stuff, he was going to join the army, and he was going to be the one that was on the Enola Gay. Oh no! And I was just that would have been a step too far. It was funny, but like that, if that's his main motivation, I was like,
just like, oh boy, that's
that's dark, but it's.
I mean, that is for sure dark comedy territory.
But that's what made it. That's what I.
Oh Lord, you know who else? This is like random now. The thing is that there are a couple of things stuck with me from when I saw this movie when I was younger. Was the girl who's chasing around, because I thought she was annoying as hell.
That's perfect for that.
You know, the other
too, though.
There was and this is it. And I think it sort of hits in a special place now. It's like Dan Aykroyd who. You gotta love Dan Aykroyd, but the line that I was like, "There's one thing I hate to see: it's Americans fighting Americans," and I always love.
I love that.
I always did really like that line, and it sort of hits home now because like all you see kind of like on social media is us fighting each other, and it's like I'm with Dan Aykroyd here.
Yeah. Which is Canadian.
Yeah.
But like his character is great. But then when he gets hit in the head, I laughed so hard at the point where he's out of his mind where after he got hit in the head.
Yeah.
And then he takes the mortar shell and he's banging it on the side, and everybody's like, "Oh my God!"
The part that I was just like, okay, that's funny was he starts. They need to know how to work. I think it's the guns in the tank.
Oh yeah.
And he starts reciting like the refrigerator works like this, which there was sort of like for me, it's like, oh, there's like maybe some insight into what he did.
And John Candy's like, okay, hey guys, listen to him.
Yeah.
And he's like, wait, that ain't it.
Yeah. But it's also maybe a little bit of insight into this character, maybe refrigerator repair person outside of the army. But the third thing that I always remember, and I didn't even realize it was him till later, is Robert Stack as the general, and like watching Dumbo.
Crying Dumbo. And I guess that,
which I really, as someone who cries during movies a lot when they get to. I relate to that scene a lot, but also it's like growing up watching Unsolved Mysteries. It's just like, holy it's Robert Stack.
Yeah. It was so good though, but like even that, like it's a funny kind of commentary on things.
Yeah.
Where it's like, all these guys are making all of these decisions which are killing killing people, but like they're able to show their vulnerability and their how they feel. Especially with Dumbo, but who can't show that? Baby of mine.
And the other, I appreciated this time around that the general is like he knows all of this, like all of these fears are like they're afraid of things that are not there, and he's sort of the one character who's like. And at the end, it's like this is gonna be a long war.
Yeah.
And obviously it was, and it's if you're in that type of leadership position, you're gonna have to deal with craziness, and how exactly do you manage that?
He had this one line that actually stuck out to me, where when the plane is flying low and everybody's shooting at it, and he goes, well, what kind of attack do you think that it is that they're not firing anything?
Yeah.
He goes,
they're not dropping bombs. Why if they're here? Why wouldn't they be dropping bombs?
And so he was like that voice of reason.
Yeah.
An interesting thing that I ended up, again, one of the things that I saw is they wanted Steven Spielberg wanted John Wayne to play that.
And they talked to both John Wayne and Charlton Heston, and both of them turned it down
because they said it was anti-American.
Yeah. I feel like it's humor that I think men of those generation probably wouldn't understand.
I can agree with that.
Because I mean, clearly, you go forward to like Band of Brothers or Saving Private Ryan, and Spielberg clearly has a feels World War II history is very important, and he has massive respect for the generation that won World War II. So I don't believe he was setting out to disrespect disrespect the military.
Of course.
That's what. But I would imagine if you're John Wayne or Charlton Heston, you're going to be reading this and just like I don't see. It's just and it's like comedy is hard, and that's one thing. I think there are people who I think look at comedy as it's like comedy, it's easy, and comedy is not at all. Making people legitimately laugh is really, really hard.
Yeah. And
as I recall, I don't remember John Wayne or Charlton Heston being in comedies, and it just doesn't strike me as their genre.
I can't think of. I really can't.
And again, massive respect to two amazing actors, but I mean, everything isn't going to be for everyone.
The time he played Attila the Hun.
Oh, ill-advised.
You're gonna remember Charlton Heston, like what John Wayne was like the prototypical man. Like he was like that stereotypical, like you gotta do this and you don't feel any different sort of pain.
Yeah.
And Charlton Heston was he was when I was growing up, he was like the face of the NRA.
Yeah.
So like that was that again. It's you got to also think about like his base audience.
Yeah, it's like they have a perspective. Heston is a great, amazing actor, and
Soylent Green.
Yeah,
like,
I haven't seen that one yet.
It's not too far away from the future nowadays.
It's people.
Yeah.
See, that's one of those like movies where I know the line. I just haven't seen the movie.
You got to see how you get there. Get to that point.
Soylent Green is people.
That's these Impossible Burgers.
No.
It's impossible.
It's impossible.
It's
you can have my bacon when you pry it from my cold dead hands.
Absolutely.
I rewatched Men in Black recently with the
Will Smith stuff.
the Edgar suit, Vincent
D'Onofrio.
D'Onofrio.
God, that's so great.
It's
God damn.
You can have my gun when you pry it until your terms are acceptable.
God, he's so good.
It's so good. It's great. It's a great movie. Will Smith was
He was good at that.
And he's
so Samuel L. Jones.
Yeah,
just good.
Yeah,
it was a good combination.
And that's sort of I think what I miss right now. And I honestly, I actually am very bullish on movies this year. I think we will eventually get to a point where we'll get back to movies just being fun, where we're not using them to make a point. Because the movies where they're using it to make a point, they're not making money, because that's ultimately not what people... I watch movies to get out of this, and to get out of, just to...
A little bit of escapism.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you don't want to have to see all of the... I think that's why you haven't really seen a whole lot with COVID. Movies-wise, because everybody's like, fuck that, I don't want to touch that.
Yeah.
Which I get it. There's artistically, there's always a spot.
Yeah.
That's what's great about art, is you always have the opportunity to be able to present those.
Which interesting thing, I'm pretty sure back in 2020 when COVID first hit, there was a surge in people renting pandemic movies like Contagion or whatnot. Just it's like what? But why? But I guess we do. I think as people have a morbid fascination with.
How could this potentially go?
What's the worst case scenario?
It's the same thing with like zombie apocalypse. Everybody wants to watch that, which some of these zombie movies that'd be a night.
That Night of the Living Dead though it's just it's so good.
There was and this is total off tangent. There was a movie called The Crazies. And I think it was with Timothy Olyphant. I really wanted to like it, but they blew their load in the trailer itself. But now it's actually kind of funny, because you could probably write that in a little Ohio town, because what it was all of this population was slowly going through this becoming zombies, but it was from a chemical spill. Go figure. That didn't age well.
Or things become relevant again. I mean, go back to Man with the Golden Gun. the big MacGuffin in Man with the Golden Gun is they're looking for this solar cell that's going to revolutionize. And it's like it's the whole it's like oil will soon be depleted. But it's like it's the same stuff we're talking about now. We were talking about in the 70s, and so now all of a sudden, Man with the Golden Gun is relevant again.
Yeah.
And
it's great.
It's so good. I love Man with the Golden. It's good. Roger Moore was amazing at delivering a punchline.
Yeah.
Like if you remember the bit with the belly dancer at the beginning, which is I've lost my chance. Not from where I'm standing.
God, he had what was it? He had the one that always sticks out to me, and I think it was like, you're not thinking what I'm thinking. I sure am, boy.
I sure am. Well, that was Man with the Golden Gun.
Yeah.
That was, oh my God, they brought. Oh my God! What's his name? J.W. Pepper.
Yeah.
Who they brought in? They had the cop from Live and Let Die.
Yeah.
For some reason, the clearly racist cop from Live and Let Die.
That's what
they brought back, and he's taking a vacation in China. For some reason, it's like there is no logic in this. This man is not taking a vacation in China.
But that's what was great about it.
Yeah.
It's like. So I think that I guess I would need to do the research.
Yeah.
I swear that there has to be a feeling of absurdity in some of the comedy, because like again that leads into this where it's so over the top, where it's just so absurd. And then like even the Slim Pickens one where he's like, where they start searching and he's like check out that. Yeah. I got a rabbit's foot. He goes, it's for love. Yeah. And then he goes, that pearl handle. And then he goes, pocket knife. He goes, one genuine Harry Carey knife. He goes, pass it around, boys. Maybe someone will have a use for it. Yeah. I laugh every damn time.
Well, what's kind of interesting about that character is that he actually does make some intelligent moves, like when he's trying to get escape.
Yeah, him being so stupid, he does make some funny.
It's like he does the whole thing where just like dumping the boots into the
like you think he shit himself and flushed himself down the toilet, and you're like, what?
Yeah. And it's like, okay, it's like, so like this is a ridiculous goofball comedy, but this character is thinking like, I need to do X, Y, and Z to get out of the situation that I'm in, which is, putting thought into it, which is
trying to get out of it.
Yeah. So like that, I very much enjoyed. Yeah. It's sort of, I mean, for me, it ultimately, I'll sort of had was thinking of a Monty Python comparison today, where it's like you look at Monty Python and the Holy Grail, and it's this brilliant series of sketches, but they all, I think, thematically weave together very well, and they lead to a logical conclusion. And then you get to Meaning of Life, where it's also a bunch of sketches, and some of them are good, some of them are not, but they don't connect quite as well. So this for me felt a little bit more Meaning of Life, where some of these characters, they all end up they weave together somehow, and I think if maybe another pass or two on the script, it might work a little better for me, because there's I think a brilliant movie in it that I could see that it's reaching for
What if that's the joke?
Could
what if that is the overall ominous joke? Is it tells you what the meaning of life is, but it's so subjective that these little stories will have a different meaning to you versus somebody else, and that's where the meaning is.
Yeah,
that the meaning is given by us.
Yeah, and stepping out of myself, for a bit. There's also the potential elements of none of the characters who seem unrelated and just by circumstance getting put together.
Yeah.
It's an
interesting way to tell a story.
Yeah, with any of us, how the circumstances that what are the exact that I met you or any of my friends. There there was a point where there was no interconnectivity, and now there is.
Yeah.
Which is so there is that as well. So.
Again, that's what I personally like about it is you have these moments of where you see something that is going to, as the audience, you're watching how is point A going to connect with point B.
Yeah.
That you see these little moments, and then you see those moments where it even gets teased, where it's like, this is going to happen, and then you're just like, okay, let's see how this happens.
Yeah.
Because you know that it can't turn out well, especially with this.
Yeah.
So to me, I think that's one of the charms of this movie as well. It's the timeline.
Yeah. And because one thing I will say about this specific DVD, the sound mix on, just from a technical perspective, this doesn't really so much have anything to do with the movie, but the DVD sound mix isn't that good. Like the dialogue I had a hard time getting, and like you really do what you need to get, like if I miss the dialogue, you miss some of the points. So it's a very quotable movie by some of these different performances. That's like that. Those are just little things that I like. The cast is absolutely bonkers, and
that's great.
Yeah, and again, it's like so many of these people went on to bigger and better things, and then you had.
I'll still laugh and I'll say about Mickey Rourke.
Yeah, and I mean, again, it's like don't, unless you know how to box, don't get into a ring.
Yeah.
With something like that's like you look at Mickey Rourke now and Mickey Rourke in the '80s, and it's like, oh boy,
it's different. He looks like that one Italian designer that looks like a lion, Versace.
Oh yeah.
I think that's her name.
Is it?
They both look very similar.
Mm-hmm.
Her and that's how Madonna's looking, but she's like one in her.
She's it's like one of those. I feel bad. I don't want to rag on people.
Not to rag on her,
but it's one of those. I see people who have clearly done sort of plastic surgery bits. It's just age gracefully.
Yeah.
Like Helen Mirren. Helen Mirren still looks amazing for being like 80. And it's like if you try really too hard to hold on to that youth, then you end up like really screwing up the beauty you already have.
You forever change what you're going to look like.
Yeah.
Like I think it's neat. Like Dolly Parton still looks outrageously good, but like where you get like people like Joan Rivers. Rivers, she did so little bit that she transformed how she looked originally.
Well, I saw Scream 6 yesterday, and. It's fun. It falls into the "it was fine" category. The end. It's a very you're gonna get. It's a Scream movie. You're gonna get the things that you're looking for out of it. The end, where I was hoping it was gonna do something a little bit more surprising, and it's like, okay, no, this is a.
That's what you expect.
I've seen this before, and sort of again the Wes Craven magic is gone, and Courtney Cox very good in it, but she was always like when I was younger. The friend I really had a thing for was was Monica.
Okay.
And all these years later, it was just like, what did you do? Because she's desperately trying to cling on to it. It's like and it's like Jennifer Aniston didn't do that, and Jennifer Aniston still looks amazing.
Yeah.
And it's it just makes me a little sad. A little sad. Because I loved me some Monica.
There you go.
Is that bad?
No, not at all. You're in a safe space.
Yeah.
Except for these cameras.
Wrapping it up. Yeah, it's like I really enjoy your perspectives on this movie because it's
just different.
It's given me more to think about because again, as someone who's not a fan, it's like I'd like to know what attracts you to it, and there's maybe there's something that I'm not seeing, and there's always the possibility that there's something I'm not seeing.
This isn't Schindler's List.
No.
Right. This is a comedy where they're making fun of a moment in time where everybody was scared. Everybody was scared. So everybody, but they're making fun of everybody equally.
Yeah.
These people are just as incompetent as these people.
Yeah.
And so it breaks down stereotypes. It breaks down, to me, and that's one of the things that I think good comedy does.
Yeah.
It shows that we're all equal, that we're all the same, and that we're all scared.
And so it's so this is Pantheon of Spielberg movies. I guess if you have a favorite Spielberg movie.
Yeah, this is not my least favorite. I
But
think
if you had to pick if you had to pick one like favorite of all time, Spielberg or Spielberg.
I grew up with a lot of like that stuff. So like I was born in '77.
Yeah.
So like I grew up with with the Close Encounters,
Yeah.
with Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Yeah.
All of those formidable years came from watching a lot of Spielberg movies.
Yeah.
So for me, it's that Raiders of the Lost Ark. But getting back into like the acting and movie side of it, it's telling a story.
Yeah.
Poltergeist scared the shit out of me forever. But like that's such a good movie.
And it was, they were also character focused.
Yeah.
And
He did do Poltergeist, right?
so here's the interesting. Toby Hooper technically directed. Basically, Toby Hooper is credit
Leatherface.
Yeah, so he directed it, but basically Spielberg produced it. But essentially, as the story goes, basically Spielberg goes direct. Basically, and which if you're Toby Hooper, that's gotta suck. Where like the boss comes in and just directs your movie for you. But essentially, it's directed by Spielberg. But that must have been super awkward. But that's just one of those it's just sort of Hollywood sort of not dark, but Hollywood grudge stories. Basically, Poltergeist is a Spielberg movie, but yeah.
But that I know that he had influence over it. And
Yeah.
It's like that's a good movie.
Yeah.
And I don't know. To me, I think personally, I'll stick with Raiders of the Lost Ark. But Jaws is like we were just leading into, is such an amazing movie as well.
I would. Yeah, it's like I think I'd have to agree with you on Raiders, and it's tough because for me personally, I think Raiders is the better movie. Last Crusade I always enjoyed a more because just the dynamic between Connery and Ford is big. It's like if you want to see a grown man cry, you got to put on Last Crusade because it's that relationship, father-son relationship is.
There's that moment and there's these key moments that I really, really love about The Last Crusade. And the one is where he's at that crossroads.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, Jesus Christ. And Sean Connery smashes shit out of him.
That's for blasphemy.
Yeah, and he goes, that's for blasphemy.
The quest for the Grail.
Yeah.
It's not archaeology.
It's
a race against evil.
Yeah. But that was what was so great.
Yeah.
Because prior to that, we're like as a kid, I'm like, oh, Indiana Jones.
Yeah.
Great. I wish he was my dad, kind of a thing. And then when you see him with his dad, you're like, okay, you see elements of yourself as a young kid. So I like that. And then there's the moment where he throws the Nazi out that blimp.
No tickets.
Yeah.
There's so the one that gets me every damn time. It's like at the end, I can get it.
Yeah.
I can get it, Dad. Just
let it go.
Indiana.
Yeah.
Indiana. Let it go.
Yeah.
It's just this beautiful and he needs his father to it's his father that has to communicate to him. I know. And his father is he is the guy who has been spending his life looking for this cup, and he's willing to say it's like this. My son is more important.
Yeah.
And that's I think what Last Crusade Raiders is a brilliant adventure. Last Crusade brings sort of these deep relationships to the forefront, which
passion versus what really.
Yeah. And people give Temple of Doom crap, but I love Short Round. I love the relationship between Indy and Short Round. There's some really heartfelt moments between them, but
it was so good. So good because you had Raiders of the Lost Ark, which is an individual mission.
Yeah,
he went out and he establishes the character. Indiana Jones shows him kind of in that, with Short Round, where he has that whole setup with him, and then you have Willie, and it was just a very interesting adventure.
Yeah, it's all, and the fun thing about that is it's set before Raiders.
Yeah,
and I guess that was a workaround. They had a 3-picture deal, but it was sequels. So by setting it beforehand, it was technically a prequel. So they were able to stretch out a contract thing by doing that or something like that. So That's kind of fun. But I'm a sucker for Spielberg. I don't know. Did you see The Fabelmans yet?
Fablemans?
The Fablemans. It's his career. It's basically fictionalized autobiography. Essentially, is what it is. It's okay. It's all right. It's maybe I think like 20 minutes too long, but it's decent, and he's really for me, what was interesting about it is that the film feels like sort of an apology to his father. Because, I mean, obviously he's a child of divorce.
Yeah.
And there's a HBO documentary, Spielberg, where he talks about a lot of it. And basically, he spent a long time blaming his father for the divorce. And it turns out his mother was having a relationship with his best friend. Yeah. And basically, it's like the father, the gist I got was that the father is like, I'm not going to act in a way that sets my children against their mother. Yeah. So he didn't go there. And when he became an adult and he figured that out, it's like, oh, I've been being a piece of crap to my dad all these years, and he didn't deserve that. And in a lot of, because the father is really, I think, well built up in the film, and it feels on some level an ode to his I lost time with my father because I blamed him for something that he didn't deserve the blame for, which was what was interesting about it for me.
The joys of being a parent.
Yeah, but it's worth checking out. I would recommend it. It's like, would I be like, oh my God, you need to see this like right now? Yeah. No, but it's I don't think he's. There is not a Spielberg movie that I loathe.
No.
Yeah. So.
No.
Even Crystal Skull. It's like one of those.
Yeah, and like
George Lucas bullied him into making it.
And I'm not even like jumping on like the whole like Schindler's List and stuff like that, like because that's it's an amazing piece. So,
yeah.
It's not even have to be.
Lincoln, I actually think is his visually most beautiful looking movie. I love the way Lincoln looks, and then you got Daniel Day-Lewis just disappears into the character, and which is amazing. I was going to say then there's a lot of incredible performances. In that whole movie, historically. Sally Field.
Yeah. Oh my God.
It's like James Spader is in it. You got Walter Goggins is in it. Tommy Lee Jones. I love just like the scenes in Congress where they're just yelling at each other. It's just like, how dare you?
Yeah.
It's just like when Tommy Lee Jones has this great mom, it's like I do not believe in all things, but of the law. And it's sort of like the idea that sometimes you have, in order to take a step forward, you have to maybe compromise a little bit on what you believe, because it's like you have to take a practical step forward.
Yeah. In order to be able to find a common ground where everybody can kind of move forward.
Yeah. So it's great. But there's so many Spielberg movies that we could go on and on and on. We should probably start wrapping it up. But again, this has been really, really fun, and I've had fun revisiting this movie.
Good.
It's still not my favorite, but it led me to having
a chance.
Yeah, and I had this awesome conversation with you. So I'm very grateful for that. Where can folks find you?
Oh my goodness. I'm going to be coming to. You'll be able to actually see me on Die Hard 2, which is going to be playing on Roku. Very small role in there. You'll be able to see me on Average Joe, which is going to be playing on BET Plus this July. And you can always find me on Instagram at Morgue Candy. I know that sounds interesting, but that's a story for another day.
Yeah, and actually, just to throw it, I hear more about that. Your interview with Taylor Berryman at the Poptimist is an excellent, is a really excellent listen. So go check out Taylor. I'm talking to him about The Mummy soon. So check out that. You guys have an amazing conversation. You can find me on Instagram at Cortoberfest and on YouTube at High Frequency Productions. And I'll be working on putting more movie reviews out on Instagram. And you guys have an amazing, amazing week. And we'll see you next time.